Oh yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to MLG on Sunday. We got some people over here already awake and in the audience. What is going on? I'm Husky.
I am axslav.
And we have got another amazing matchup. I feel like this round of the tournament is basically like finals after finals after finals. But without further ado, let's go ahead and toss it over to Anna to introduce our players.
Hello there, guys. I'm so excited to join you here. People are trickling out of their beds, getting here to the convention center. And of course, those of you who are tuning in at home have been here from the very beginning, I'm sure. But I'm so excited to introduce this next match to you. On the red side, our Terran player from Korea. It is StarTale Bomber. Bomber, you're facing MC, and in the Red Bull Battlegrounds last year, you guys had a pretty epic matchup, and unfortunately he was able to defeat you. Will you take revenge this time?
민철이 선수하고 경기하신데 랩부 이벤트에서 그때 민철이 선수하고 좋은 경기를 하다가 결국 민철 선수가 이기셨는데 이번에는 복수를 하실 것이.
안 그래도 작년에 진 것 때문에 1년 동안 기다렸어요.
I'm very annoyed about the loss last year, so I've been waiting for a year now.
All right. And his opponent, of course, in blue, our Protoss player from Korea, it is SKMC. MC, you are the only Protoss player left in this tournament. Will you represent your race and take it all the way to the end?
유일한 프로토스 선수신데요. 프로토스의 힘을 보여드리죠.
Yeah, of course. I'll show you guys.
All right. Go ahead and shake hands, guys. Have a good match. And back to you, Axski.
Well, we'll stick with that. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, both these players have actually had quite a bit of success at MLG in the past. MC has placed very highly. Bomber ended up winning Raleigh, I believe. So both players here are going to be absolutely comfortable. And I just realized we have this giant crystal thing that the winner gets. I don't know how you're going to get that on a plane. This thing weighs like 1,000,000 pounds.
Well, only one of them can get it. Of course, the winner here will advance to the semifinals. The loser will have to be content with the 5th through 8th place finish. MC versus Bomber. MC, the last Protoss standing in this tournament, and he said he assures us that he will go on.
Yeah, MC always confident in those interviews. Gotta love him. Sometimes giving his interviews in English, which is great. His English is actually getting better. But I gotta say, he did end up losing pool when I saw him playing in the lobby. He's apparently not very good at pool. Of course, he's a lot better at StarCraft. StarCraft does take a little bit more micro than pool, let's be honest. So I think he's gonna be A-okay there. But the players are gonna be getting set up in their booths right now. And probably give them just a minute here to get warmed up and get everything calibrated and good to go. But I gotta say, these two players, I know I say this a lot at tournaments, but the format of this tournament basically guarantees that the best players are going to be close to the finals. Of course, we did see MC versus MVP a little bit earlier, which kind of felt like a finals in and of itself. But this literally could be a finals because Bomber has made it and won an MLG before. MC, I believe, has gotten 2nd and 3rd place a couple of times at MLG. He would love to get the championship here, and I don't know where he's going to put this giant trophy, but that's the least of his worries when he's winning as much money as first place is getting.
I mean, MC has so many trophies. He probably has a room dedicated to those things.
He has to.
Yeah, I mean, well over 300,000 in earnings in SC2. I forget the exact number, but definitely one of the most successful players ever in StarCraft 2. Can he continue that trend here today against Bomber?
Yeah, and Bomber has had some pretty good success as well. He doesn't, win major tournaments first place every single time, but he tends to place extremely well. And being that consistent in StarCraft 2 is extremely difficult. You'll see a lot of players who end up winning a GSL and then just kind of fade away. You never really hear from them again because they just had one good season. But Bomber has been a player who has been consistently good and showing us some really good games actually so far throughout this tournament. We got to watch him a little bit on Blue Stream as well. So that is actually here looking at right now. So that is Bomber right there. Always super handsome and of course sponsored by Red Bull there. So we will see if he can actually do it. Now Bomber, I mean, he's a player who can have insanely good games, and sometimes I've seen him just crumble a little bit under early pressure, which we saw MC earlier. He against MVP, I'm not sure if you're able to catch those games, but he basically always opened Oracle and was super aggressive. Sometimes he'd use one Oracle, and one game he used about 5 Oracles, and I do believe that the players are ready. So is the audience ready out there? Oh, they're so ready.
We're ready, they're ready, MC's ready, Bomber's ready. Let's get it started. First map going to be on Newkirk City.
Yeah, Newkirk City, again, is one of those maps that can easily be cut in half. You don't normally see that in this matchup, the PVT. It's more kind of a ZVT. The 2-hour-long games were both on this map, and they were both ZVT games. Me and In Control got the pleasure of casting those, but a very interesting map. We can see lots of airplay. We've seen MC use oracles here quite a bit, but let's go ahead and introduce our players. Down in the bottom left side, looking to win another MLG. Give it up for Bomber.
And over here at the bottom right side, the last Protoss standing, the Boss Toss himself. Give it up for SKMC.
MC, always a huge fan favorite. He's been on stage in a Murloc outfit. He's done lots of dances. He does lots of funny manner stuff in the game. And I would say so far in the games I've seen of him, I haven't seen every single game at this event that he has played, but the games that I have seen, he has been very, very aggressive, which is definitely interesting because Protoss, you know, they've been being aggressive with the Mothership Core and the first couple of Stalkers and then kind of backing off and then dealing with the drops in the mid game and then transitioning into a late game composition. That's kind of what we've seen out of most Protoss players. But out of MC, he has been going Stargate almost every single time, so we have to keep an eye out for that double gas. You can still get it off of one gas, but it's definitely not as crazy without the double gas.
MC will probably, I think he'll probably stick with that Stargate play. We saw it very, very useful against MVP. You know what, if it works versus MVP, that means you're doing something right. So MC's probably going to stick with that build. I remember earlier in the interview right after he beat MVP, he said that felt like the finals, him versus MVP, of course. Teammates in a way with the SK-LGIM partnership they have going there, so a lot of respect for each other there. MC's going to want to say, okay, if I took out my good friend MVP, I've got to think I want to win a tournament to do him the justice of that victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing to keep in mind is that, number one, there is the second gas there for MC, so we'll see if he does go ahead and go for that. We have the gas on the way for Bomber as well. Could easily be a Reaper. Decides to actually open up with a Marine first right now. We have seen a lot of players like Flash, for example, open up Reaper in almost every single matchup and almost every single game. But one interesting thing about Heart of the Swarm, as most of you know, is that the game has just come out. So a lot of the players, whether it's for the GSL, the team leagues, or whatever, actually ended up practicing Wings of Liberty a lot more than they were able to practice Heart of the Swarm. Now, I know MC has practiced a lot of Heart of the Swarm. Kind of curious to see if Bomber is able to prepare for the new units, because MC loves using those new units, and they can be tough to deal with if you're out of position at all as Terran.
We see a relatively fast factory going down by Bomber, and one thing we saw him use extremely effectively against Tasia in the TVT series of the round of 16 was Widow Mine drops, just throwing those Widow Mines everywhere, making your opponent have to deal with cleaning them up. A very cheap way to harass your opponent, get some extra value, contain him while you macro behind that. Is he going to try that against MC's Protoss play as well?
I definitely am curious to see that, because MC, if he does go for the Stargate right here, one thing that he'll also do is if he's anticipating those drops, he'll actually get out Phoenix, which will lock those down right quick. And I definitely think the biggest strength of Terran right now is going to be utilizing the drops, which we do see a Starport right there. We started to see a lot more Terran players go right into Starport again to get those drops. You can do it off of one gas, especially if you're mixing in things like Widow Mines, Hellions as well, do not require that much gas. So he is going to be able to do it. And there's the Stargate right there. So anyone who saw the game versus MVP is not going to be surprised by this. I really like this play. I think Protoss players have a lot to learn from this, because if you're laddering and you're going up against constant drops, it's so difficult to deal with a standard unit composition with gateway units and a Mothership Core to back it up. It's just not that strong. So I love this play. Oracle to harass, Phoenix for emergency defense, and then it allows you to actually secure bases, which is where Protoss is going to be comfortable, is once they have 3 or 4 bases.
Mothership Core coming in here, harassing the supply depot a bit, excuse me. And one of the goals of this is to get a lot of scout information. He saw there was no command center on the low ground with the Stalker. Mothership, of course, sees 5 Marines, so he's going to suspect some type of tech build coming out of Bomber. Bomber's got that medevac mostly done. Widow might come here to protect that depot. Mothership, of course, is going to back away, make sure it stays safe. More barracks going down for Bomber.
Now, good control on that Mothership Core, making sure the Widow Mine does not detonate. Remember, Widow Mines do not one-shot them, but wow, actually Bomber being so aggressive with this drop. The Oracle might actually have to be utilized here to help defend against this. Is the Mothership Core going to spot it? The medevac there getting so close, but actually the timing of this is really, really good from Bomber. We haven't seen this aggressive of a drop versus MC so far in this tournament. You can see he's chrono boosting out the Phoenix. Like we're saying, he will reactionary get these out, so he has to be able to deal with this drop right now. I love the aggression here because in versus MVP, he was not this aggressive. So the Widow Mine right there is going to hit the Mothership Core. That's actually a good thing for MC right now because he wants to keep those units alive. Bomber decides to unload those Marines. I think that was a big mistake because the Oracle was there and ready to kill those off, and the Phoenix is going to deal with it. I feel like Bomber did not do enough damage, and now he's in full retreat. However, that Widow Mine right by the Stargate there could prove to be very annoying.
It can. MC's got to be very careful with this rally point. Of course, Phoenixes are fast enough to escape that detonation rates. Oh, is that? Ooh, barely saving that medevac. Bomber, he needed to keep that medevac alive. Of course, he does have that second orbital command just finishing. MC's expansion is up as well. Stim pack going out for Bomber. MC's cranking out those Phoenixes. Once he gets several Phoenixes out, he's going to be looking to use them to harass, pick off workers. And of course, the main purpose is to deny that drop play.
I do love that. Notice how MC's actually rallying his Phoenix downwards. He's keeping them there, so if that Widow Mine unburrows, he can fly in there quickly at the Phoenix and pick it up. But if he rallies, to the north, then the Widow Mine would be able to do substantial damage to those air units. So great control so far here by MC. This game is already looking vastly different, though, than what we saw with MVP. I feel like Bomber was able to be aggressive enough to thwart away any sort of harassment here. So now we're actually seeing MC in a position. There we go. Picks it up right there. It's got to get that Widow Mine. This is why the Phoenix opener is so good in PvT right now.
Very good at deflecting any kind of early game Terran aggression. Bomber going to stay turtled up a bit, knowing there's Phoenixes out on the map. Wants to defend the airplay until he builds up a good force with Stim pack, with a decent medevac count. Has a couple Vikings in his army, so those can do some long range assault, but of course do not want to go head to head with the superior Phoenix count of MC.
Yeah, and you got to remember that MC a lot of times will actually transition into Colossus here because he has the Phoenix to protect it, and looks like he's going to go ahead and use the Envision ability there so he can spot those Widow Mines, and down goes the Vikings. This is actually huge because if he transitions right now into Colossus, also grabs a Widow Mine right there as the Oracle could actually spot that. He gets another Brood Widow Mine right there, and a third one as well, getting some huge momentum here, forcing the SCVs around MC. I'm telling you, this is the build that Protoss players needed to do in this tournament. MC obviously having prepared it, it works so good. And just a reminder, the Oracle is actually a detector. The ability is called Envision. That's why he spotted those Widow Mines. They don't activate quick enough to actually detonate versus those Phoenix.
Some great moves by their MC, taking out a couple Widow Mines. Phoenixes again on the harass, going to try to pick off a medevac here. Is Bomber going to pull it back in time? Afterburner's ignited, pulls back, Marines covering it, but that medevac is severely hurt. Phoenixes are looking to finish the job. Yeah,
he might actually be able to get the first Phoenix right there. If not, it's going to be dangerously low. The Stalkers will be able to finish it at home. Notice how he's delaying the push as much as he possibly can. Bomber never really able to get a footing so far in this game. He himself has been harassed, and his own harassment has not done as much damage as he would like, and the Phoenix can just pick off any slow medevacs, any reinforcing units here. We'll see if he actually decides to do that. No, Bomber wisely decides not to reinforce that anymore. There's a random Hellion up in the top right side. Not sure what he's doing up there or if he got forgotten about. Might be able to delay that third base. But right now, MC is looking to be in great shape. He's got a slight supply lead. He's actually got quite a few gateway units now. And as we were mentioning before, he's going for that Colossus tech here, adding on the gateways. This is where MC wanted to be. He is dictating the pace of the game so far, and Bomber's just got to watch out, defend, and make sure that he doesn't have a bad engagement here.
The one thing we can see from Bomber, more and more barracks being added, going up to 5 barracks before that third command center. Not too many add-ons are on those barracks yet. They're just now adding on their reactors. So it's going to be a few minutes before he can really get a sizable Bioforce out, and by then MC is going to have all his warp gates, he's going to have Colossi with thermal lance, as well as, of course, that Phoenix Force in the air to help the Colossi out against the Vikings.
Yeah, and that is so crucial in this build because Phoenix, Vikings don't count as a light unit. They're not going to be absolutely countering it. What they're doing is absorbing the shots from the Colossus, from the Vikings, because you got to remember that the Vikings will attack whatever is attacking them. That's kind of how the AI works in StarCraft 2. So they're going to be going for the Phoenix. So if you focus down the Colossus, then the Phoenix are going to kill the Vikings. If you try and focus down the Phoenix there, then the Colossus are going to kill your ground army. It's a very, very tricky situation. You have to micro very well, and And it's just tough because his medevac count is going to be so low. Again, this is the strength of the build. MC very obviously planning it out, because either way, your opponent is in a tough spot. Doesn't have enough Vikings or doesn't have enough medevacs. Either way, the sky toss is going to be good, or the ground toss is going to be good as well. So we'll have to wait and see if MC decides to go for a third base. We have seen his pretty sick timing off of 3 bases, but he could pull it off of 2 bases just as easily.
Bomber adding a second star pro wants to try to keep up with the air superiority of MC. Going to try to crank out a lot of Vikings to deal with the threat of MC. One thing that MC is doing, though, is because he's made so much gas in Stalkers and Colossi and in Phoenixes, his upgrades are going to be a bit behind.
And the Phoenix still trying to move out right now. We will see if he manages to do any more harassment. They're trying to delay that third base. Really, really nice there, staying active with those Phoenix. That is one thing about MC, is once he makes those Phoenix, he is never inactive with them. That Hellion over there, going to be delaying potentially at third base if MC decides to go for there. But I think we're just going to be seeing a 2-base timing right now, because we do see a lot of forward pylons right now and no expansion to back it up.
MC wants to take Bomber out now before Bomber can increase his Viking count to the point where it can deal with the Colossi Phoenix competition. More and more Stalkers being warped in, Sentries as well. Going to be utilizing the force field as a key component in this battle, as the Zell count is low. Needs to keep that bio away from his army. Revelation going down on Bomber's force field, knows exactly where it is.
Here we go. Bomber has sprung the trap. The force field's not really in time. This army is actually clumped up heavily for MC. There's the other force fields you want to see. The Colossus, though, actually not getting the shots that he needs to here, as Bomber's doing massive, massive damage. Keep an eye on the supply, though, as it is a relatively close battle. The Phoenix are going to remain. It looks like MC will take this battle. He's going to push it back further and further now. Bomber's not looking too good here.
Marauders being picked up, Stalkers finishing him off. Bomber now pulling SCVs, but there's not much to back them up. Time Warp going down top the ramp. SCVs heading out, but Boss Toss is looking strong.
This build is so good from Protoss. He said he was feeling confident after beating MVP. Bomber still struggling with the same stuff we saw, but MC here is going to be held off for just a little bit. The Marauders, they're able to actually do enough damage, and notice how Bomber's transitioning directly into medevacs. He knows I've dealt with the Colossus threat. Now I need to get my medevac count up, and overall units lost here is a lot closer than you might think after that battle. And I gotta say, if we go back later and watch that replay, the positioning of MC was actually not that great. He walked right into a vastly superior concave, which is exactly what Terran players want. It's what they need to win those mid-game battles if they're on the defense right there. And MC, I mean, what was his backup plan? It sure wasn't an expansion, because he doesn't have one.
No expansion, 0 upgrades from MC, not even a single forge. He's in a little bit of a rough spot now. Adding that Twilight Council, probably going to go for a blink, or maybe perhaps charge, although typically with the Colossus competition, blink is a little bit more common. Plenty of Stalkers. Now MC's on a defensive. That's going to give Bomber a chance to take a third base. It's going to give Bomber a chance to execute some drop play. Oh, MC here having a little bit of issues. One of the things we're going to see coming in is, now that there's not that large Phoenix presence on the map, how much can Bomber get done with his medevac play?
Yeah, that is going to be the big question right now, because this is actually a perfect transition time for Bomber right now, because yeah, he lost the Vikings, but that means, you know what, Colossus are dead. I can go straight for those medevacs, and really the first couple of shots from the Colossus there were not exactly what he needed, MC that is, to be able to hit all those units that were clumped up from the force field. So that was a beautiful defense by Bomber. We saw MVP really struggle versus a similar play style, and Bomber saying, you know what, I can go toe-to-toe right now. He is a little bit behind in supply, but remember that another Colossus has just begun, and until MC can get out a couple of Colossus, I think that single Colossus is not going to be all that effective. So we're just going to have to wait and see, and perhaps take command of the, or resume from replay there and see afterwards. But of course there is MC. So far a pretty close game, and I gotta say, this could easily transition into a longer macro game, but the thing I want to know is what is that Twilight Council going to be for? Is it going to be for blink? Is it going to be for charge? Does MC have any plan to expand ever, or does he know that Bomber now has too much of an army to be able to do something like that?
MC's in a very tough spot where he really wants to take a third base right about now, but he has no way to deal with drop play. I mean, as soon as he takes that third base, he's going to be very spread out. Drop's going to be a very big problem, so I think he wants to get the blink tag first, or maybe even he feels that going for blink, then the third will be too slow. He might even go into something like Dark Templar and just try to take out Bomber here quick, because he's in a situation where he's got that supply lead, which is rare for a Protoss versus Terran, but it's a supply lead in pretty much just Stalkers and Zealots, and against a Marine Marauder force, that's really not going to cut it. He needs to get more techiness out in the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the name of the game when it comes to PvT, is if you are stuck with gateway units versus Marine, Marauder, Medevac. We might also see some Widow Mines in there if he decides to go ahead and continue to do that. But, you know, if you are stuck with just gateway units, you're going to be in a lot of trouble versus what is moving out right now. And I honestly think Bomber might be really aggressive here, because being out in the center of the map is not a risk to him, because he can either be aggressive and try and end the game with some drops, or just try and march right up the ramp, or he can go ahead and expand right now, because I don't think MC's army is going to be able to attack it directly. And yeah, we are going to go ahead and use the recover feature once again to go ahead and pick up right where that left off. And the way that that function and feature works, if you aren't familiar with it, is it was recently added by Blizzard. It will pick up right where the lag started, right where MC disconnected. So it's literally down to the second on exactly what happens there. So it's going to go ahead and yeah, so we just got to go ahead, get that one underway. And thankfully that feature has been able to save a couple of games here. I know that it was utilized with Flash, and you know, in some of these high level games where you're not sure which way it's going to go, it is a godsend. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing here in just a second. I'm curious to see what's going to happen in this game, because I thought for sure MC was going to have it, but his positioning wasn't great. The trap was already set again by Bomber. He was ready to activate there. He took the timing right when he needed it, and unfortunately MC's army was actually in a choke, which meant that Bomber's army was out in the open, which is actually good for Terran, because you can split up your units and prevent that splash damage.
Bomber had a great concave in that battle. I mean, MC's Colossi were constantly firing, but there weren't great clumps of bio from the focus. They're focusing and hitting maybe 2 to 3 bio units at a time. They really want to hit more than that. And that's why Bomber was able to actually trade very well in that fight. He also focused Colossi first with the Vikings, and then worried about the Phoenixes. Didn't just do that A-move syndrome and let the Phoenixes do what they want to do, which is soak up all that Viking damage.
All right, it does look like both players are ready, so we're going to begin the recovering process here. And we'll just be able to pick up right where we left off here between these two players. And actually, I mean, I know a disconnect is never a good thing, but at this stage of the game, it was right after the battle. MC had fully retreated. Bomber was kind of in the middle of the map, but there wasn't going to be an engagement for the next couple of seconds. That's going to give the players a couple of seconds to go ahead and refocus. They can redo any hotkeys that may be lost. They can basically just pick up right where they left off and not having to be frantically microing there in the midst of a battle. So they are going to be able to kind of sit back, recover for just a second, kind of look around the map a little bit. Remember, they can't see what their opponent's doing, but there is a little bit of a countdown where they can look around for just a second at their own stuff and be like, all right, I had these units here, these upgrades were this close to being done, and kind of get their head back into the game and continue right where they left off.
Recover feature is being enabled right now. MC with a supply lead, Bomber with the Spirit competition at the moment, though.
Yeah, I know, and that's one of those things where it's so cost-effective going versus Protoss, who is stuck kind of in the in-between of tech, because he's trying to get out one Colossus, but one Colossus is not going to win you a game. You need, at bare minimum, 2 Colossus there, and he's going to try and get those out, but even I think there's still a Viking or 2 on the field, which can help deal with that for Bomber. So it's basically, MC was dictating the pace of the game because he was the aggressor. Now it's going to be Bomber. Does he become the aggressor, or does he become an expansion ahead of him, or yeah, of MC, because MC has not started his own expansion at all. I think Bomber could relatively safely build that inside of his main base, lift it off to that third base, which is relatively close to the main base anyway, and go ahead and continue from there. So what I've seen out of MC so far in this tournament is really well thought out timing builds, which is you know, a good way to play Protoss. There's a lot of timings that you can utilize to go ahead and just win those games outright, but we're gonna see, can he win a game when those builds do not work out? Because that's the worst feeling is Protoss, and he's kind of in a rough spot here. Does look like it's loaded up. They are making sure that both players are ready. And there we go. We do have confirmation that the game is going to continue right now. There's going to be the 3-second countdown. And the game is going to resume right where we left off. And as we were saying before, oh, I didn't realize this Bomber is actually going to go ahead and send those SCVs with this army. So he is going to be the aggressor right now. And we've actually seen this happen many, many times in the past. And I think MC actually really struggled with this before, as we do have the SCVs going to be moving out right now with this army. This game could actually be over extremely quickly right here, as he's gearing up for a position to attack. Just taking a look at the units tab and the supply, you can see 128 supply to 102. But Bomber Bomber deciding, you know what, it's now or never. There's only 2 sentries here for MC, so he's only got, or actually 3 now as he is warping into third one. He's got to be able to wall this in and hopefully be able to delay this push. But you can see that Bomber right now is definitely the aggressor. Neither player is going to go ahead and expand right now. MC Chrono boosting out as many Colossus as he possibly can. He does have 2 now on the field, so we are just going to have to wait and see. And unfortunately for Bomber, he hasn't found an angle to engage at. And he actually has SCVs loaded inside the medevac. He says no force fields for you. Photon Overcharge going to be used right now. The drop right there from multiple angles. I don't know about dropping in the high ground though, as MC is able to deal with that. He's dealing with it on the ramp and also dealing with the drop over here. Bomber being so aggressive here, but it was way too much to deal with. And MC able to take that game so quickly. Now we knew that MC was a little bit ahead right there, but I did not expect that to be so decisive, as I like the idea that Bomber had, dropping in 2 locations while running up the ramp. What that's going to do is negate the force fields and prevents them from actually being useful in any way. But MC just looking so confident in that battle. I do think that Bomber may have stood a chance if he waited, if he expanded again, but we saw MC's macro. He was able to have so many units ready so quick that I don't even know if defending was going to be the correct choice right there. So it does look like MC able to take game number 1 here. He is looking great. His timing attacks have been absolutely devastating so far, and throughout the entire tournament, that's exactly what we saw versus MVP. Using the Oracle, using the Phoenix, and I know I've said this many times, but we saw a lot of the foreign Protoss just fall, crumble, get destroyed by the drops of Terran. But MC's saying, you know what, if I have an early Oracle, I can either deny the drop because the Oracle is going to be doing additional damage versus Marines, or I can go for Phoenix, which is going to be able to chase down those dropships. And it's such a good plan, because what MC can do there is if he scouts out the base with the first Oracle, he can say, okay, I'm going to make another Oracle. I'm going to make a 3rd, 4th, even 5th Oracle if I think that my opponent does not have Vikings. If there's not enough anti-air on the ground, I'm going to go for it. But what he can also transition to is those Phoenix. If he scouts out with the first Oracle, scouts out with the first Mothership, he sees something that's really worrisome for him, he can go ahead and go for the Phoenix. Just Chrono boosting those out right away. I'm telling you that the Stargate opener is very versatile. We're seeing MC utilize it here, and it's very obvious to me that MC has practiced this. I'm kind of curious to see if Bomber had watched those MC games. Does he know that that's the style that MC is favoring right now? Does he know that, he could be going up against that again? Even when MVP in the first series we saw with MC going for the mass Oracle there, even when MVP expected it, he was powering Marines from the beginning. He said, you know what, I have 12. I think he had something like 15 Marines. The Oracles just swept in 5 at a time and were able to kill that off almost immediately. That still wasn't enough. So versus what MC's doing, you have to be a little bit more safe. You either need a missile turret or Vikings or something to deal with the early Oracles. Remember, Oracles cannot attack air units. I think that's something that a lot of Terran players forget if they're just trying to play Heart of the Swarm. So Oracles cannot attack air units, which means that you have to get out a Viking there. It can also deal with the Mothership Core as well. And I gotta say, one minor mistake that MC made there, of course he ended up winning, so whatever he did is working, is that the Mothership Core did not spot the drop as early as he could have. Now, we did see in a previous game where MC actually tried to stay to spot those units and actually ended up losing the Mothership Core. So what he did does make sense. He doesn't know, is it gonna be a medevac or a Viking? Because remember, the Terran players, that they decide to be a little bit more defensive oriented with those units, they, instead of going for the drop, they can actually go straight for the Viking to deal with that Mothership Core, and I think that's why he ended up running away a little bit earlier. So it does look like Anna is in the crowd. Let's go ahead and go to her. Take it away, Anna.
Hi, guys. I'm sitting here in a very energetic and excited crowd, and I'm sitting here with a guy whose name I really like. His name is Jeff. Nice to see you and meet you, Jeff. Now, you were telling me that you lost your voice quite a while ago. You've been here all 3 days?
Yes, I've been through here just from the very beginning. Yeah, the feedback is really weird. Yeah, but like we really got so crazy, starting with the Red versus Flash, and the crowd has been absolutely wonderful. All you guys, cheer, cheer, yeah!
The feedback he's talking about is we hear our own voices, so give us all a break back here. But so Jeff, tell me, in this last match, who were you rooting for?
Well, I gotta say that MC, being a Protoss player, I gotta love the boss toss! Yeah!
Do you think that he has what it takes to take it all the way to the end, or is Terran right now, with the strategies they have in New Heart of the Swarm, are they just too strong?
Well, I think the reason why Terran has been doing so well is because the units that have been upgraded in Heart of the Swarm have been things that Terran's already used, like the tank getting the upgrade and the medevacs. Everybody loves the mechs. And Protoss, the units that we're using, being so close to the start means that people haven't time to practice this. So the fact that MC, we see him using oracles, we see him doing the awesome sky toss, we see he's really in Heart of the Swarm, so I really think he's got a chance to take it all the way to the finals!
All right, let's see if they can do it. We'll take it back to the casting desk right now.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks so much. Oh my goodness. Thanks so much, Jeff and Anna. You are the best. And the crowd has seriously been absolutely ecstatic. If you did not watch the late night cast, it got a little crazy out there. So it was amazing. But anyways, we're going to take a super quick break. Do you have any final thoughts before we go on that last game?
I do. MC, I really want to see him win, and of course the crowd does as well. We saw that the crowd thinks Boss Toss can make it to the finals. We'll have to wait and see, can he do it?
All right, so without further ado, we're going to take a super quick break, and when we come back, it's going to be MC versus Bomber. Don't go anywhere.